Hello, friends. Welcome to Spirit Chat, episode number 12. And I have a very special guest today, and I'd like to welcome Beth Lynch. I'll just do a little bit of an intro, Beth, that I had just found on your website. Is that okay if I mention that? All right.
Absolutely.
So first of all, let me welcome you so we can hear your beautiful voice all the way from Florida. And first of all, I just want to back up the bus very quickly. I'm really, really excited how I met Beth. And we have to give a big shout out to Julie Guy, who was my last my last guest. What was that? That was episode number 11, and that was All Roads Lead to Bon Jovi. When you get a chance, Beth, you have to listen to it. It's quite
I will listen
hilarious.
to it. Mhm.
Okay. So
Oh,
welcome, Beth. Beth, I'm so excited for my guests to hear you and all about you. So I'm just gonna read very quickly from your website. I found it very fascinating. So Beth here as a child, sensitivity to thoughts and feelings confused at times terrified her. Fast forward 30 years of curiosity, faith, and healing. It is now her passion and purpose to help others understand intuition and healing, thoughts, and the power of love. The death of both parents in a short period of time made her face the depth of loss and the process of healing grief. In the learning and healing process, the understanding of death also became clear. The truth transformed sensitivity into strength. In turn, her intuitive gifts and abilities were clearly about helping her, but also to help others. Living a life committed to meditation, higher awareness, and personal healing, her sensitivity to the spiritual realm became natural, and helping others wasn't inevitable. She feels blessed to help others connect to those crossed, as well as intuitively guide them to a place of higher understanding in their own journey. She has been practicing meditation and yoga for 16 years and knows firsthand the importance of balancing a spiritual practice, motherhood, and a career. She has founded the Inner Light Awareness and Practitioner Program and is passionate about teaching meditation to all ages. She volunteers in her communities to teach and share meditation and wisdom. And one more thing, Beth truly feels life experiences will be our greatest opportunity to learn and our greatest teacher. Embracing all roles in life as a mother, woman, and intuitive, she feels is a blessing and hopes to help others recognize the privilege of life. The understanding that we are energy, we are one, is important to hold in our minds and hearts for survival and in our world today. Yes,
that makes me cry. I wrote that.
you did.
Yes, I did. I wrote
Well,
my bio.
I know,
It's
but
evolved over the years, I think, but
how often do we go back and read that, right? So it and when I was reading, it's like, you know what? I'm just going to read exactly what is written here because it's you in a nutshell, right there. I do have to say for my audience that I was very honored and blessed to have listened because I got the audible version of your book, Life, Death, and In Between. Loved it. So for my readers, my listeners out there, I do highly recommend listening or ordering the book. Do you have it soft and hardcover?
just soft cover.
Just soft
Ebook.
cover?
I think
Oh,
it's an ebook, audio ebook, and soft cover. Yeah,
yes. And it's right behind you.
yeah,
So when I post this on YouTube,
yes.
they'll see
Hmm.
it right there.
Hmm. Hmm.
So her website is innerlightteaching.com. Yes, I visited, and man, you're a woman of many hats. I love it.
30
And
years almost
I was
now
just gonna
doing this.
say, doing this for 30 years, still going strong, you're still working away. Uh, I love the fact that everything that you've learned. I loved how and your experiences, how you incorporated that into your book. I think it was 10
Mm.
chapters, right? One thing that I'd like to discuss, not only as a medium, a spiritual teacher, but also the fact that it's the meditation and how much meditation has changed your life. There was one thing that you did mention in your book, and that is I would like for you to share with the audience how you went to Delphi University and you learned meditation through there, but you also went in with prayer. And then when you learned about the science part, with the gamma and the you know, the
All the
brain
levels.
waves, all the levels
Mhm.
of the brain waves, the alpha, the beta, the gamma, all of that, and then incorporating that. So it's like you took the prayers and the science part of it. If you can just share with my audience, how what you took away from that.
Yeah, I think, prayer to me is the oldest form of meditation. I was brought up in Catholic school system, so the rosary, and you repeat the prayer, you repeat the prayer, repeat the
Hmm.
prayer.
Hmm.
And then as I got older, I realized, and I always felt comfortable talking to God, the universe, the powers that be. Um, Jesus, I mean, that was my wheelhouse, where I was comfortable and just having natural conversations. So I felt like when I experienced my first real meditation where I really felt I went somewhere, and that took time. It was a 2-year period where I would be
Hmm.
like, I can't stop my thoughts. I can't stop thinking.
Hmm.
I can't. And, I learned we're not supposed to stop thinking. It's part of it,
Of
the
the
thought
meditation.
energy.
Yep.
Because yeah. So, just learning that prayer is the oldest form of meditation, and meditation is mediation between your thoughts and your emotional responses, between your higher self, your personality, those are, and then, just the Silva course is what I took for a weekend once when I was already practicing my own meditation time. And I started just going to my heart light. That was where inner light teachings actually came from, because I would just go there naturally and
Hmm.
breathe into my heart, and it was such a natural thing. And then, I just saw the benefits. First of all, being able to read, focus, and concentrate, which I never could do. And now in my 30s, all of a sudden I'm reading something once and getting it. That was mind blowing to me, because the focus and I never thought practicing something every day for a few minutes or something actually would make me be able to read and adhere the information. And that was, but also just the feelings that I got and the coping skills and the discipline and how you
Hmm.
respond emotionally. I mean, all of it just unfolded for me. So does that answer the question, or did I go off?
Yeah. Do you find that when you do your meditation, do you find you have a clearer connection when connecting with loved ones? Do you feel that it does make a difference for you?
Oh yeah, because you got to look at it as frequency. Our friend
Yep.
Mr. Tesla, energy vibration.
Mister. And
The secrets are uncovered. I mean, why are we letting these be secrets? In our meditative state, we're going up in frequency, and the science behind that with the alpha, theta. I
yep.
don't say I don't know which wave we're supposed to be in. I mean, I know, but off the top of my head, no, I don't. But it really is the science behind it, and it shows the power of this on the chemicals in the brain and the chemical releases in our system. So, that's an area when people think meditation is whatever, woo woo, or doesn't work. I'm like, you gotta trust the process here, because this is
Yes.
science. This is running your body. It's how
Yep.
you're responding, how you're making choices, and how you're not. Also, the double side of the coin. So I just saw my own benefits and just became so passionate about it. And I, to this day, sit every morning, bedtime, and somewhere in the middle of the day, I sit and sometimes it's just looking at nature, slowing my breath.
Hmm.
Always got to
Hmm.
slow the breath. 30 seconds to 3 minutes, your nervous system will start slowing down when you slow your breath. It really will calm the nervous system, balance it, get you up in that higher frequency, which is where our loved ones are. They're in the higher zone, you
Yes.
know? And
Yes.
so and that's where our intuitive nature is. And something about the intuitive nature, which is where spirit will be, our own higher self, our own spiritual nature. Our spiritual nature holds our intuitive, capabilities, trusting our intuition. It holds our creative expression, how we communicate, how we cope emotionally, the connection to something bigger, the divine, the universe, God,
Hmm.
whatever
Hmm.
word you want to
Hmm.
call it. And loved ones. And it's a nature that's really our natural nature. And so you can see the issues in our world when people are so far away from that natural nature, and they're so far away from those qualities. We wonder why we're having, a mental health crisis. We wonder why, depression and anxiety, because you're so far away from your natural source.
Yes.
Intuition is a survival mechanism as
Hmm.
well. It's how we survive down here. Through our personality, we will express through our physical world. we got to stop the separation. We have to start finding that middle ground if we want our species to really find its way, to its natural ability to be. That's a big one,
Exactly.
huh?
And I also like the fact that how it also incorporates into our healing as well. I'm a firm believer through meditation, using our third eye, visualizing, the energy, the healing
Mm.
light, whatever have you. But you did mention in your book that you had a client, and you didn't know that you were going into this session in regards to a loved one coming through. No, it wasn't a loved one coming through, but it was you realized that she had a tumor.
Hmm.
Can you share
Yeah.
that story with us?
Goosebumps. Yeah. Very special story. So I was asked to go, someone reached out to me. They'd just gotten out of the hospital and they were diagnosed with like I don't know if it was stage 3.5 kind of thing of lymphoma. And so I didn't really know what that, I knew it was cancer. That's about all I knew. So I went to her house and I knew her just very casually. She was she had very olive skin, dark hair, very beautiful young mom, kids all under 12 at the time, maybe even younger, at 3 little girls. And basically, I went there, I got there. She was very, very white, drawn.
Mhm.
It was a little shocking. But I knew, she'd been in the hospital 3 weeks. So, and she had lost a lot of weight and just everything was different about her. So we went to the bedroom because she couldn't really leave the house because she had to go back in a few days to get her port in, something like that. So we went into the bedroom. I facilitated an inner light healing. I don't know if you read where I saw the technique of the spiral on
Yes,
the
yes.
forehead. I think I wrote that. That was something I'd never done in my, little ways of doing inner light healing. I'd never taken a formal course in healing. I kind of, but after doing readings and being learning about healing and meditation, it took a life of its own on to be natural. So I was just doing my own little thing that I would do, which I call the inner light healing, which is bringing one to that frequency of their light in their heart through a meditation and then letting them be there and then laying hands wherever you feel
Mhm,
drawn. So
mhm.
I was shown that experience to spiral here. And it was the Divine Mother's energy that entered. And I literally could see her
Wow.
literally with my physical eyes. And there's a lot more detail to it, so I don't want to over talk it, but you could find it. I believe the story's on my website, but it is in my
Yep,
book.
yep, yep, that's how I found
And
out.
but basically I watched her stop trembling just by being shown that technique to do it. I mean, I saw the inner vision, I did it. I didn't ask questions. She had finally fallen asleep after I started doing that. The relaxation was just a completely, I've never stood over human fear like that in my life, and that's
Mhm.
exactly what I feel still to this day. I still have not seen human fear like that. And she finally did go after the spiraling technique. So I use that in all my healings now, and I share it in the healing class too. Obviously, that would be important. So,
Mhm.
anyways, we got we went through the experience. I had my experience with the Divine Mother to tell her these words: the condition is temporary, but she must believe. And those are the words of Mother Mary. Please tell her these words: the condition is temporary, but she must believe. And I was just like, hey, I mean, tears are running down my face. I could feel the divine. She's out like a light. It was amazing. And so when I was bringing her back from the meditative state, anticipating to tell her, when I didn't know what her faith was, so I didn't know what she was going to feel about that, I said to her, I seen the Divine Mother. She had a message, but she started actually saying it's gone before I even got to tell her that sentence. She was saying it's gone. And then she said, but I'm afraid to think that because, she knows what she was diagnosed with 3 days before, And I said, no, no, don't be afraid. Listen. So I told her what I experienced. She reached in her pocket and pulled out a medal of Mother Mary and said, I've been praying
Wow.
to her to heal me for my children.
Oh,
I looked at her and I go, girl, you got a tan in that reading, in that healing. And we both looked down at the mirror at the end of her bed and she goes, oh my God. She was olive again. I mean, her face looked at everything. I'm like, oh my God. And she said, but what about chemo? She said that, what about chemo? I'm supposed to start chemo. I go, she didn't tell you not to get chemo. She told you not to claim the condition. So this is what you do. You listen to your meditations during your
yeah.
treatments. You when people tell you, I'm so sorry about your cancer, just think in your head, if you don't want to say it out loud, I'm not claiming that condition. Have your moments, cry, but then say, I'm not claiming that darn condition. And so we got it. She was empowered. She walked out in the living room. Her whole family went like, who is she? Because she walked out. When she went to the bedroom, she could barely stand straight and went one shuffle at a time. She literally walked out and picked up a toy in the hallway, one of her lap. I mean, she didn't even think twice to do it. She did it. She couldn't have done that before. But a few days later, she had to go back to her doctor appointment and they had to do something. And I guess he had to take an x-ray. And he asked her 3 times what she did in the last 3 days. And she said, I told him, you're not going to rain on my parade. I'm not telling you. I feel great. This is what I got to do. Tell me what I got to do. He goes, well, you left here with a baseball tumor in your lung and you now have a P and I have no medical explanation. Well,
Love
when she called me,
it. I love it.
she goes, I didn't even know how to explain it. But listen, this is the power, the divine energy when it's present, when your frequency is up that high. These conditions can't live there.
Yes.
But if we sit in that fear and we energize it, we're giving it water. We're watering the flower. I will honestly say, I don't say, I'm going to heal your tumor and clear your tumor, because that's not what that was.
Yes.
But you have to start believing we have some power, a lot of power within ourselves to maybe even avoid these conditions, let alone move ourselves through them with grace and with spirit and with strength and dignity that sometimes, we don't have. Sorry, my son's game is going.
And like you mentioned, it's based a lot on frequency. And you did mention in your book too, your thoughts on, prescription medication or any form of medication. And you did share, especially, I think you had one client with, where there was a mental depression, something like that, and how, you can't get through to that client because of the medication and the frequency within that. Can you share or expand a little bit on that for me?
Yeah.
Or for us,
And
for my listeners?
and I know we're throwing the words around a lot, me and you, the energy frequency, because we're so in the healing arts, we are so familiar with it. So for people who don't know, a happy thought is a high frequency thought. A sad thought, grief, which most people come to me because of, is very low frequency. These are all emotions that we are wired through our own higher spiritual nature to go through, for one. So we do have, through that faith and belief, we're allowed to. Please trust your weaker moments. I don't ever want to say la 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 about some of the hard things people go through. But when you, what I have learned in the last 18 years of doing this work, is that the medications, a lot of the mental health medications, drop frequency like a roller coaster.
Yes.
Okay.
And I've seen it. I've seen it. Yep.
When you go down into that zone and you're too low, that's what I call the pharmaceutical induced suicide.
Ooh,
I survived it 30 years ago because I was 40 years. I was 28, whatever that was. I did not know anything about this. I was still cutting hair and coloring hair. And I was given, can I say the name? Is that legal? I don't want to get you in trouble. One of the more popular medications that are still out there. I was hyperventilating, actually. I was hyperventilating and went to the ER, and they gave me this very popular medication still. And I didn't really want to take it. I go, I'm hyperventilating. And they said, well, that's anxiety attack. I go, well, what's that? Well, I didn't know. Or are you stressed out? I go, no, I am trying to make a decision to move back, from the West Coast to the East Coast. But, this is probably a relationship I shouldn't be in. I mean, normal 28-year-old girl stuff going on,
Yes. Yeah.
probably, in the big picture. Well, your body is having anxiety, so take this every day, go to your doctor, get more. And I'm like, so my fear was to hyperventilate again. So I said, I'll take it for the 5 days that they gave me, 1 in the morning, 1 at night. They'd given me one when I arrived there. So then I took the bedtime one, and I did not like how I felt. I remember saying, I feel weird. Felt like my hands weren't attached to my body. That was one of the things that never left me. Yeah, that's what I felt, disoriented, like, ooh. And then I went to sleep, and then I woke up in the morning and I said, okay, I'm just going to do this for the 5 days. I'm having my whole little conversation. In the meantime, making big plans to move back because it was time. And took the next one, and about 20 minutes in, I would say, I started to feel disoriented again. And I felt like my hands weren't on my body. It was just the weirdest, like I was detached. So I went, I'm throwing that stuff out. I threw it in my basket. I didn't take it for 24 hours. I called movers. I got things shifting and shaping and ready to go in 24 hours, when I was, or at least, scheduled to go. 24 hours later, I was in my apartment and the feeling came over me again. This disorientation. I'm looking at my apartment. My hands feel like I just felt like this, like I wasn't there. And then I saw myself like a hologram, which I will explain something on that, twice walk by. Vroom, vroom. And then I heard, get your, and blow your head off. And I went, what? And I heard it again and it yelled. I called my girlfriend. I said, get down to my apartment now and get my gun. I had a gun. I used to go shooting out of my apartment. She comes flying down. It was a 40-second episode, honestly. The voices were screaming in my brain to do that. I felt like I was floating to my closet where my gun was. When she ran in my door, I was on a death grip on my couch, death grip. And she said, when I looked at her, she'll still cry to this day when we talk about it. She looked at my eyes. She said, your eyes were black. You were not you. And I ran in and she screamed, what's going on? And I just went, and I go, I don't know. I'm hearing voices and, so she ran to the basket and said, this is what happened when you went to the ER. She told me, this is that. You can't just stop. I go, well, what is it? And she said, the anxiety medicine. You're not supposed to just stop. I go, well, I'm not taking it if it makes me do this. Now, you got to understand, I did not understand anything about energy then, meditation. I was not doing those things then. I was always wanting to meditate, but I never could. I tried.
Yeah.
That was my first incident personally. And then fast forward, 15 years, now I'm through my own experiences. I've surrendered my scissors and foiling, and I'm doing this work. I don't even call it work. And I start to get these beautiful young beings sitting in front of me while I'm talking to a parent, showing me these flat lines, Picasso painting, a pharmaceutical bottle. And it always ended up being a suicide and the person was on medication for mental health, sometimes just put on it. Never did I correlate my experience. Never. Didn't cross my mind. Except one, after about 6 months, I started going, wow, what are these cases? I mean, I know I'm helping the families, but this is intense. The Picasso ended up becoming the distorted reality. Because we could look at a Picasso artwork and go, well, eyes, nose, ears, mouth. But when that was how they were telling me, when they looked at it, it was like, it hurt. Like no orientation. Another young man on meds that took his own life told his family member, 1 and 1 equals 2. I go, he said 1 and 1 equals 2. Because she literally yelled, why? And he answered her immediately. And she said, okay. We both didn't know where it was going. And then he goes, 1 and 1 to me. And he showed me a number that went from left peripheral vision to right peripheral vision. You could not say. Now he was putting that with 1 and 1 equals. And then he just held his head like, it can't. Now he was medicated from, I think, 8 years old. Now he's in his 20s. Didn't like the medication, never liked it, but he was put on it for focus and concentration and holding still and all that, like many. And I respect if it's helping your people. Trust me, I'm not a med shamer. I have complete respect if it's helping someone. I do not see those cases. Those are not the people coming to me. And according to the spirit world, it's 98% of the people on it are more falling into where I was, and these living in a incapable to cope with natural human emotion space, which could lead them to psychotic. It just depends. I mean, just watch the commercials. I mean, the side effects are there. They're real. Yeah. That's what I tell people. So where meditation and what it is it's separating you from your higher frequency. It's keeping you down in the low frequencies where addiction can be, where bipolar, 2 polarities. Spirit World has a very interesting definition of bipolar. And I'll never forget the first time it downloaded to me in a healing session was, look, we're all bipolar. We all have 2 polarities. But when you're in diagnosis, what has happened is the low frequency has dominated the consciousness, subconscious as well. So it's running in that frequency constantly. Well, law of attraction is based on our emotional frequencies. So that law is just bringing you everything that looks like that. Exactly. And it ain't pretty down there. It ain't pretty down there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're tapping a very powerful issue in a nutshell in a way, but this is where I learned
Mm-hmm.
about it through when my
Your
own
own
experience
experience.
became
Yep.
clear thing to this mom whose son is telling her stuff and then telling, and I'm all of a sudden flashing back because he seemed like verbatim almost what I went through. I went, whoa, 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 wait a minute. The voices made him. He observed himself. I saw myself walk by. That was my higher self.
Exactly.
Your spirit splits. Your
Mm-hmm.
consciousness will
Mm-hmm.
split when the frequency's too low. Schizophrenic.
Wow.
It's amazing how this can help. And they
Yes.
said somebody who's a beautiful a teacher who I have utmost respect for has showed me this once. I said, I never could understand the Picasso. She goes, oh, well, he was under treatment for mental illness when he was doing that artwork. I'm like, oh my God.
That
She had a whole
explains
book
it.
on Picasso.
Totally
We went
explains
to the
it.
chapter. It was like crazy. That was crazy to me. I was like, I got the flat line. It kind of keeps you like in that dead
Yeah.
zone
Mm-hmm.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, and so much we could talk about on that. But
Well,
that's where meditation moves your frequency up.
yes.
Certain medications drop your frequency and hold it down like a tsunami. You're under there and you're
Exactly.
always drowning.
And you know what's
Tough,
going to
tough
happen
issue.
now? Now that we've had this conversation, the next time I have a connection, with someone in spirit who passed through that, I'll probably get shown Picasso now.
You probably will. And you will
Right?
know. You will
Yep.
know. And that's that night, Helen, I prayed after that mom left because she knew she didn't let her son down. He was
Mm,
8 minutes. He called and said, Mom, I don't know what's wrong with me. He wasn't saying I want to kill myself. It's not where he was.
yep.
He goes, I feel weird, Mom. I feel weird. I feel disoriented. Honey, I'm on my way. She was 8 minutes from his apartment. When she got there, he was already
Oh,
gone. He
wow.
I prayed that night and I said, what do I do with this information? I'm a
Hmm.
medium. I mean, what do I do with this information? And the voice, people laugh sometimes if you make a comment that the voices say, we all have an inner voice. What frequency is it talking in?
Hmm.
And are we open to the higher voices above us? Part of who we are. That's where our intuition will come through and guide us, through our own inner voice and out through our how we're going to react from that. But I heard this very exact word quote. Please don't stop talking about it. So many more are coming this way. It will take down our species before any war. Anyone want to argue me on that
Holy.
point right now?
Yeah, definitely not me. No way.
Mm-mm. We see what's
That
going on out
that's
there.
that's friggin' powerful. Friggin'
I
powerful.
could cry right now thinking I can hear those words and I won't stop and I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just getting to be even where Twitter and places where people speak out on their,
Mm-hmm.
side
Mm-hmm.
effects after long-term
Yep.
use, especially.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting to be bigger and people are speaking out on it now. And moms are realizing they don't want to medicate their children for that. There are other options,
Yeah.
nutrition being
Yeah.
one.
Well, you taught meditation in schools, didn't you? For students?
Mm-hmm.
And you've had
Mm-hmm.
some amazing experiences from students coming
Yeah.
forward and sharing their experiences. Like we need to push that out there more and more. It has to be brought into our education system. Start
It
now.
does.
Start when the kids are young, implement it. Hopefully, parents could also
Mhm.
engage in this as well. Can you imagine the harmony in homes if the parents did it with the kids and plant that seed and then have that evolve into their everyday, right? and
It's
and
just
and you have
mindfulness or
people
quiet
with
time, call
people
it
with
whatever you want.
people with PTSD, people from the war or the military, uh police officers, what they have to go through, you know all of them, anyone that has to deal with crisis on a daily basis.
Mhm. And PTSD is interesting because I've worked with I've done some volunteer work with veterans with meditation, and
Hmm.
it's sad it kind of gets let go of. They don't want, they just somebody doesn't want to facilitate it anymore. And it's like, my gosh, people are willing to give an hour of their time a week for your people.
Yep.
Don't let that go. But it was just an isolated thing that kind of
Hmm.
made me sad that they wouldn't just, well, we're kind of busy for this. And there was a regular 8 people on there and they had, yeah, whatever. But PTSD, according to the spirit world, is when any trauma, when the shock happens and the emotional shock, that the frequency drop that goes with that, and then the frequency gets stuck like a vinyl record. So the emotions are stuck. So now when emotions are stuck, what happens when emotions are repeating themselves in that frequency, the thoughts continue, and then the thoughts are energizing the emotions. This is what the spirit world said. So it makes sense. So what happens is you can get triggered, or it's always there and it's always running it. So you have to get out of the frequency in
That's what
order
it
for the
is.
needle to move. And as the frequency goes up, you can move away. Addiction's the same definition. Get out of the frequency of addiction, which is quite low, and which based on emotion. Don't you love when someone says, well, I'm not an emotional person? I'm like, Lord have, yes, you are. You're having one right now. Part of understanding we are thinking, feeling beings, and that's what we're doing with every single thought, and it's manifesting. It's all
Oh,
manifesting.
and with the veil much thinner nowadays, we're manifesting very quickly, very, very quickly.
Oh, amen with that. The veils
Yeah,
are thin.
yeah.
Uh,
That's why I always say it a lot to my clients is, observe your thoughts, like observe your emotions. Where are what are you holding on to, right? Which is the segue leading into your chapter 6 about love,
love,
self-love. See
love,
what
a
I,
whole different
yeah,
frequency of love.
isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Isn't it? How
Oh, it's a
powerful.
good frequency.
Do you want to combine a little bit? You mentioned also in chapter 9, and I just kind of want to I'm going to get dirty minded here. Chapter 6, chapter 9. Can we bring 69 together?
Yeah, that has love sometimes, and sometimes
There's love in there somewhere.
and this is what's so fun right now, Helen. Understanding yourself is spiritually. It's funny. We are funny when we're in our higher frequency.
Yeah.
Why not have fun with it? It's sexy.
Oh,
It's
I'm all
funny.
about
It's
fun. I'm all about
all
fun.
of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Anyone that knows me, that's the frequency I want to stay at.
we might have to collaborate on a little retreat or something. We're going to talk.
I love
We
it.
would have too much fun, I think. If there's such a
Yes.
thing. Yeah, I love that. So what was you said the self-love?
You mentioned a lot about, active and reactive. Do we live in love? Do we need the love, self-love? In order for you to move forward in a relationship, number one, the foundation is loving yourself, self-love. It needs to start with you. And I find, with people when they're dealing with broken hearts or their loneliness or they're grieving, the first thing that we want to do is find someone to latch onto, to find someone to give you that love. But I'm a firm believer that it needs to start within, is loving who you are. You agree on that?
Absolutely, because the more, the measurement of self-love really puts out energetically through the law of attraction and the law of universe, not our law. We didn't make this law up, so don't be mad at us people when you hear this, right? This is a natural, powerful, sacred law happening. So how much you love yourself is really the degree of love that you will feel and attract to yourself from others. And then whether it's a person or your career, I mean, you can really bring it down into all things. But when you're thinking about a person, because when you go into a person loving yourself, you love yourself, you can laugh at yourself, you're more confident, you don't need love, you would desire it in a higher way and want someone to be able to love themselves too. Because if anyone's in a relationship where their person makes their level of be their love center, like you're responsible for them feeling love, those are dangerous relationships nowadays.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's when you think about domestic abuse, what's happening, their foundation is being rocked if a woman stands up and wants to step out, and we just have to watch the news to see what can happen there. We both all know it's out there, and these stories of people having to flee quietly with their children. I mean, the stories are horrendous. I see them in my work. And when you don't draw that kind of love, imagine you're not going to draw something that puts you in fear, or they have a need for you to supply them with the love they didn't get in their trauma. I mean, come on, it's not about their bad or evil, but if you can align yourself with higher frequency love and recognize love that could be based more in a fear-based situation, you would be saving yourselves a lot of trouble. I mean, if I think back in my 20s, could have dodged a few of those things
Yeah.
probably if I really understood the power of self-love. I think I tried to always do it because I always honored my own space and stuff, but yeah, I wasn't making those decisions in my 20s. I don't know if anybody really does.
You're still discovering
24.
yourself.
Yeah, figuring it out. Figuring it out, who to love and who not to love. But yeah, just not, not loving in need and not loving in fear. And that
Yes.
will happen when you honor self-love. Just moments in the day, every day, something to show and honor the love
Hmm.
for yourself. It's amazing what it does.
Yeah, I had that with a client of mine. She was having relationship issues, and we got onto the topic about self-love and practicing that exercise where you look in the mirror, and it's just taking time out and appreciating who you are, where you're at, self-judgment, all of that. And as soon as she started doing her own inner work, really tapped in and fell in love with herself, and she's like, I really don't need anyone now. Like I love where I'm at right now. And as soon as she hit that frequency, boom, the love of her life showed up. And she,
That's
she
it.
reached
Says it
out to
all.
me and she goes, I need to share this with you, right? And this was actually last week. And now she's moved in with them, and and she says, and I realized that it was the power of self-love that did it. So
That's beautiful. I love hearing that. The power of self-love. It is powerful. And I know in my, readings and stuff, I see it, many people will sit before me and like nothing say, I don't love myself. And I'm like, well, we're going to change that today. And you know what else? And you will like this as in a sense, spiritual
mhm,
counselor, whatever we call ourselves. I always say when they say the word, I'm working on it, I'm trying, I'm like, those two words immediately leave
yeah,
now. You are going to be devoted to self-love.
devoted
Devotion is different
devotion.
than working and trying.
Hmm.
But even in a relationship, when you redevote yourself to a relationship instead of every day, we're trying, we're working on it. Oh, people work all day. They come home, there's still more work to do
Hmm.
in the home. Who wants to say now you got to look at each other and go, now we're going to work on this,
Yeah.
No wonder people throw in the towel. Be devoted to it and then
Hmm.
recognize you did all you could. And if you have to have two happy homes instead of one unhappy home, let's go
Hmm.
down that road. There's ways to go through these things in life that we go through with love and grace.
Love and grace. Yes. And I do sense too that where we're at right now, it's more about, and a lot of people, they just want to be stuck in the past or fear in the future. And I feel the biggest present to give yourself is being presence,
I love
being
pre-
in
it's
being
spirit.
being
Hmm.
in the present moment, the
Hmm.
presence of being present in the exact
Hmm.
moment, and just observing where you are in that moment, and observing your thoughts again, your emotions, where you are. And when it comes with relationships, same thing. It's just, why not just like take it day by day? Like, why do we have to put a label onto what the relationship is moving forward?
Hmm.
And we always want to compare them to other relationships either that you've had or other people. And it's like, why can you not just enjoy being? Just
Hmm.
be.
Big one. People don't know how, but it's part of being a teacher. And I don't think I think we still have to practice it ourselves. I mean, it's not like we're calling I don't say, oh, I'm the expert on love, but I am devoted, to self-love. I am
Hmm.
devoted to my marriage. I can see times when I wasn't and what it was doing to it,
Yep.
and when you can look at those things and go, wow, take a deep breath and see, and,
Hmm.
it just clears your head and you intuitively really do know what you want for yourself instead of what you need or fear you'll never get. I mean, it's just, we can go in, it's psychology, but it's spiritual psychology. The spirit, your higher self will communicate to you that even that word devotion.
Yep.
We're not
Hmm.
working on this, we're devoted to it. It's a piece or more peace in between you because
Hmm.
everything travels to the partnerships anyway. You're all communicating
Hmm.
without talking. Mm,
And
that's a big one.
speaking of relationships, the one part that I was listening to on my drive, and I mentioned this to you earlier, was when you mentioned your son, and I became so emotional when you were describing how your son, you know, placed his hand. Was it he placed his hand over his
Mhm.
heart
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
described? like described God.
God.
Can you please
To this,
share in your own words that beautiful story that you shared regarding your son was 3 at the time? Can you share that?
yeah, turning 23 this month. I could say
Whoa.
he still remembers that too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were doing what I would call our prayer time at night. You know, one of my things with him, even as a little boy, I'd say, anything make you sad today? And he'd tell me, you know, his truck broke or something, and anything, what made you happy? And I said, oh, you made me cookies. You know, as a 3-year-old, these little simple things, you know. And I'd say, good. And then at that night, I decided to add, you know, anytime that you're sad or confused or angry and you feel, you know, you can't talk to mommy or daddy, you can always talk to God because he will hear you. And he went, God's not a he, mommy. With this wonder in his face, like, God's not a he. Don't you know that? And I go, you know, our concept of God, it's higher power, frequency, it's pure
Mhm.
light, love. It's not the, you know, what I would say it's not the bearded man with the mallet judging us all and telling us where to go. And, you know, so just throw that out there, you know, because that was my traditional upbringing, kind of, really, for me. So I said, well, what is God, honey? And he looked, I'll just do it. He went, God's a feeling. Touching his heart, eyes were closed, and just held it for a few seconds. And I was just going, the emotions that he showed,
Yeah.
God's a
How
feeling.
beautiful. So beautiful.
And I went into mother mode. Boy, I hope he remembers that at 16. And you know, he's meditated. He's always known to, you know, play the guided meditations, because I have a lot of guide. If you use my website, you get 5 free downloads, by the way. We can say that a little bit later if you like. But if you just put your email address in, if you want to be on the email list for events, you get 5 free meditation downloads. And I mean 5-minute ones, 10-minute ones, 20-minute
I'm
ones.
on it.
It doesn't
I'm on
matter.
it. I'm gonna
Five
be on
minutes a
there.
day,
Yep.
5 minutes a day. But to this day, he still will do that when he's, you know, he doesn't say he does it every day, but he says he does it 3 times a week. That's what he told me. I said, well, that's still good. That's still good. But I remember he would have bonfires in the backyard, and his friends would come over. In New York, we had a beautiful yard for that kind of stuff. And his teenage friends would come over, and first, get your mom, Mrs. Lynch, will you do meditation around the fire? Those kids, they'd be like this. They'd be knocked out, you know, their heads hanging off the chairs. And I would just guide them into a little bonfire. They would go,
Nice.
"Yes, these kids are just still the greatest group of kids, even though we don't live there anymore. I watch them on social media, and they're just good kids, but just watching that they wanted that on Saturday night at 10 o'clock. You know what I mean? By the
Yeah.
bonfire.
Wow.
It was just amazing to see. It was amazing to
Yeah.
live and expose so many little minds to that, because I know they carry it with them. I know they do.
Yeah. It's within us. That's
Mm.
definitely within
I
us.
have
Well,
one
thank
story
you.
I'd love to share about that
Yes.
meditation, if you got the time. All right.
Yep.
So when I was doing meditation in the schools, and this is you know, anyone who's in the education system listening to this, my principal of our local high school experienced meditation with me for personal reasons, and literally called me and said, I want you in my school. He got a grant. I was actually would volunteer and go there all the time for the coaches or certain teachers to talk about meditation and take the kids into one. I did that all the time, but he wanted me there. So I committed to 3 days a week, a few hours a day. And I had a meditation room. I was a low lighting. I had oils diffusing. I had high frequency music playing. They would sit on their yoga mats and just lay, and I would guide them into breathing. And so I was there, and they could come in, teachers could send them down. Um, you know, they could come on lunch anytime. I was there after school. It was a beautiful thing, on a grant, by the way, because he did want to pay me something. And he got a grant for that. So those grants are out there for schools to get these rooms if it's needed, you know, if you don't have somebody in staff that could do it, which I'm sure they could. But so anyways, I would never forget this one kid. That room was always busy. I would sometimes have to hang a sign on the door, um, you know, 20
Capacity
minutes
full.
before. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. And I could fit a good 15 in there. And I'll never forget, this one kid walked in, and he was definitely sent down there because he was probably, something was going on in the classroom. And he was, you know, 6 foot tall football player kid. And I'm sitting in the chair, open the door, and go like that. And he gave me a look, and I told him to sit, you know, sit there. And then I start guiding him, you know, and he only had about 15 minutes because he got there toward the end of the period. So the bell rang and the kids all get up and leave that had been there. And he stood up and I'm looking up at him. He's a big kid and he looks at me and he goes, Mrs. Lynch, where'd my anger go? And I looked at him and I go, oh, and he goes, I was so angry when I walked in here. I didn't want to be in here, but they made me come down. I don't feel angry anymore, Mrs. Lynch. And I don't understand. So I told him, energy, frequency, the breathing slowed your nervous system down.
Mhm.
Next day he came in with 5 more football players, 5 kids. Yep. Brought
That
'em all in.
is awesome. I love
And
that.
that was something reoccurring all the time. Kids would come in. I remember hearing the kids out in the hallway go, that room's dope, man. You got to go in that room. They would be
That's
in the hallway and I
they
would
go
prepare them
be
for the fluorescent lighting. I said, okay, you guys, you're going to walk out in that lighting. Take a few breaths. We need to lower the lighting in these hallways. We
mhm.
need to lower the lighting.
Fluorescent
That's
lighting
frequency.
all day long in fluorescent lighting.
They need to change that. I don't know. It probably saved the elect on the grid too. But I'm just saying the education, the schools to get these downtime rooms, mindful
Yes.
rooms. My principal said you
Mhm.
call it meditation. That's what it is. I don't care. And we did. And it was for 5 years I did it. And you
And
know
it
what stopped it? COVID.
COVID.
Because they
Yeah.
couldn't sit that close together. And then it just kind of fell off the
Yeah,
grid. But there
maybe
were
we need to be
teachers still
advocates
doing it
for
in the
it.
classroom.
Yeah. Even
Oh yeah,
5
I'm
minutes. We just need 5 minutes. Do you remember? Well, they took it out of the school system where we would start off here in Canada, the national anthem, and then do like the quick Lord's Prayer. Well, they took all
Yeah.
that out, right?
And what was that doing? Raising the
Yeah.
frequency of every child in that school.
And same with the physical education. You know, practically now nothing. And you know, when my kids were really young, I noticed this. I'm like, what's happening with the gym classes? This is not right. We need physical activity. So I got
Mhm,
proactive,
mhm.
and I have my own little. This is a little shout out. Not a lot of people remember that I did this, but I created. I was teaching yoga at the time, so I created for kids. Cookie, the yoga sized clown, very whimsical clown, right? So this rainbows
Love
on me,
this.
just a little, red on my nose and some glitter, very, very, whimsical like and fun. And I auditioned 7 kids who represented each chakra, right? And I created a show. I had my own show, and we would go. It was actually supposed to be an animation, so it was going to be half live, half animation, and it was going to be for through Nickelodeon, which was the children's show here in Toronto. And
Yeah.
we put together a board, a vision board, or whatever you want to call it. So I had such a production company, little production company, and we were almost hired on to have our own TV show. And I did go into a couple of schools at the same time. I did do a couple of live events, but I won't get into why. Well, I'll share this very quickly. It folded because of my partner at the time. It became about money. And I just said, if this is going to be an issue, then, just for legal purposes, I had to end it. But to know that
Wow.
I had started that, right? And, people were taking it all in, they were absorbing it. They're like, yes, we need this in our system. And to do it on the TV, get the kids, and I know there's shows
I
out
love
there,
it.
but the
Mhm.
idea of doing, and we did like a little meditation, we did a little musical around yoga. We
Ah,
made we made the poses very animal like, very so that kids could, move into it. Just we made
oh
it
my
just
God.
fun. We brought it to their level and made it fun. And the kids, again, each one wearing the colors of each chakra, and
This
they
is
had some.
amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, it was called Cookie, the yoga sized clown, and it was under the edutainment. Yeah,
Edutainment. Wow.
edutainment. And yeah, I put about a lot of sweat and tears went into that for about a good 2 years, and being inspired
Wow.
because of my kids and the education system. So that's what led me to talk about this, is the fact that, come on, if we could just, again, 5 minutes, bring it to the
5
board.
minutes.
Can we not do 5 minutes? Like even I remember we did was it grade 4, I think it was. It was called the popcorn, and they did it over the announcement, right? After the Lord's Prayer, um, after the national anthem, they would play the song, and all the kids would be
Oh,
jumping up and down. And they took, why? They took all of that out
All
of
of
the
that away.
education system.
They heard it.
Yeah, that's
I
why we
don't
need to
think they
homeschool.
even
We need more
realize it.
homeschooling
Well,
or,
I've always said that what I
or
saw for the future of
Montessori's.
schools, yep, would be neighborhoods, you know, people getting together, and what they would pay for private school that maybe would be a little less or something, where they could pay a teacher to come in who
Yeah.
has the big basement there, you know. I still think it'll go to that, you
I
know, if
got a
these
feeling,
shootings don't.
I
Mhm.
believe, Beth, we are moving into that. More people are awakening.
Yeah.
More people are starting to realize we should be taking care of our own vessels through nature, through
Mhm.
organic foods, and I'll be honest with you, I truly believe that COVID woke a lot of people up.
Mhm.
Especially when you were in our lockdown. It's like, I have to admit, I gained weight, right? I wasn't
Mhm.
as active, and
Hey, I had to close my office, and I ended up saying, well, I'm remote anyway. I can move back to Florida and be near my family.
yeah,
So it took me a
yeah.
blessing.
But let's hope and pray.
Yep.
Let's put that energy out there. We'll raise the
Absolutely.
frequency, and hopefully people who listen to this will, maybe we've planted some seeds in other schools
Yes,
around the world.
absolutely. We
Maybe
did. I know we did.
parents listening and say, they're onto something. Maybe we should do something in our
Mhm.
community for our children, right? Because the children
Mhm.
are our future, right?
Mhm. Exactly.
I even created little daily inspiration cards for kids. We're talking,
Oh,
I don't know, almost 20 years ago. See
yeah.
what our
Well, look
kids
on my
did?
website. I have
Yeah.
Donald's Journey to the Tree, which was a meditation I did for kids. Has
Oh,
all the
there you
positive
go.
affirmations and the coming out in the back of it. It's recorded too. And I
Yeah.
laughed because Snoop Dogg came out with his little version of affirmations, and I'm like, I did that 20 years ago, but I'm not Snoop Dogg, so
Yeah.
but maybe it'll
Yeah.
inspire people to go further and look, and Donald will get picked up
Exactly.
eventually.
Well, for my listeners and my viewers, innerlightteaching.com, that's INNERLIGHT teaching.com is where you're going to find Beth's her book, again, Life, Death, and In Between, which I loved, and her meditations. So I just
Five
this
free
is- I
meditations.
just want to
Yep, come right back to you.
thank you for being my guest. We covered quite a bit.
Oh, we covered a lot. We really did. And I thank you for having me. I really would have me back. I would love to be back sometime, or,
Yes,
we'll talk. We
absolutely.
got to talk.
Maybe we'll do an exchange. I'll read for you, you read for me. Who
We could do
knows?
that. That would be
Right?
nice. I would do that. Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
We'll
thank you.
talk.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I'm pretty sure that my listeners and my viewers are going to be highly motivated and inspired and maybe even healed. Who knows?
Love that.
Raise the frequency, the power of
Yeah,
love. Okay. Thank you
I'm
so
with you.
much, Beth.
Thank you for having me. Very
You're welcome.
grateful.
Okay. All the best.